Today we're talking adaptogens and nootropics, or nootropics. I still don't know which one's right. They're getting a lot of attention lately for boosting focus and reducing stress. But from a brain standpoint, what's actually happening when we use them? Is it a lot of hype, or is there legitimate brain chemistry to support it? Jamey Maniscalco is back, and he is going to talk about how these things may improve our mood and our memory, and from his own medical perspective, if these compounds have real scientific backing or if it's more of a placebo than a powerhouse. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to Dawnversations. I'm Dawn, and this is where curiosity meets conversation. We dive into health, wellness, relationships, all the things that make life interesting. Whether this is your first time tuning in or you're back for more, I'm so glad you're with me. Let's go. Welcome to another episode of Dawnversations, and welcome back to Jamey Maniscalco. Hi, Jamey.
Hi, it's so good to be here, Dawn.
It's so good to see you. Okay, so we had an episode that we did together that aired, I just looked, July 11th. So it's been a couple months, and you have been a busy guy, which I think you already were to begin with, but you've had all kinds of things going on. So today we're going to talk about a lot of things, but adaptogens and nootropics are going to be the heart and center of it. Let's just start bare basics. Talk to me like I'm 5. What are adaptogens and nootropics? What are they? Oh, wait. Introduce yourself.
Absolutely. It's all good. No one needs to know about who I am. It's all about the adaptogens and nootropics.
Introduce yourself, and then you can tell me about nootropics.
Okay, maybe it'll give me some more credibility too. So I am a PhD neuroscientist. So I've been studying neuroscience for almost my entire adult life, specifically focused around stress and anxiety. So I've studied the systems within the brain that process stress and anxiety, what types of things affect them and how. And I was a professor at a university here in Denver, which is where I live, up until a few months ago when I actually resigned from my professorship to start my own company, focused around the neuroscience of health and wellness and how to bring health and wellness to people in a way that fits seamlessly into their existing lives without having to massively overhaul things. Really trying to embrace this ethos of small change for big transformation. And so I'm on this new journey that brings neuroscience into really an actionable realm of how can we take all the things that I was learning about as a neuroscientist in academia, kind of in isolation in this vacuum, and bring it to the world to actually make people's lives better.
Yeah.
And that's what my continuing goal and my continuing challenge, which is really exciting, is how do we bring all this information to people in a way that they can actually use that fits into their daily lives? And so it's been a blast.
I love that. And what I love so much about that is the way that I learn is my favorite words are when somebody says, for example. I'm like, all ears, like, yes, because it's one thing to learn all the information, and then it's like, I don't know, what does that look like in my day-to-day life? What does that look like for normal people? I don't know. Give me an example. Tell me, show me how to make it work in my life. So I love that you are trying to be the bridge between the science and the life and how you can make that all go together. That's perfect. So
Thank you.
Now tell me about nootropics. Nootropics? Nootropics.
People say it differently. I call it nootropics, but a
Okay.
lot of people say nootropics.
Okay.
So nootropics and adaptogens, these are an area that people are hearing about, whether they recognize it or not, a lot more. They're becoming much more popularized and normalized, which I think is fantastic because there is more emerging evidence of their health and wellness benefits. But what are they? So coming back to it, so adaptogens are a class of compounds that help with stress regulation, that help manage not only perceived stress, so how do I feel, but also biological stress. How is my body responding? And in particular, there's evidence showing that these adaptogens can help regulate your cortisol levels, which is the primary stress hormone, but also alongside that, how you perceive stress. Do I feel anxious? Do I feel worried? Do I feel calm? All these kinds of things. And so adaptogens are derived, many of them are derived from plants and in some cases, some mushrooms. And so adaptogens are all naturally occurring plant-based compounds and fungi-based compounds. And they act based on mechanisms we're still figuring out on your brain um, that help in a way that helps regulate. It's called your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or your HPA axis, which is your brain's way of communicating to your body to release cortisol in response to stress. And for those of us who are constantly stressed, high profile jobs, busy jobs, kids, all the responsibilities of life, plus constant stimulation from phone dings and pings and all this, we're living in a world where we're constantly spiking our cortisol. And so here, what adaptogens can do is they can help manage that cortisol release, which not only helps with you feeling calm and present, but also it can indirectly help with energy levels and things like that, because being stressed all the time is exhausting. And it's not only mentally exhausting, but it's physically exhausting for your body. And so by being able to regulate your homeostasis and your stress a little bit better, not only do you feel better, but it can give you more energy as well.
If you're sitting behind your device or your computer and you've been there for a long time and maybe have not gotten up, or, you're just like in the zone. And
Mhm.
it's like all of a sudden it just hits you and you're like, I have got to get up and walk around, or I need to go get a drink, have a half a sandwich, or whatever it is. You can tell that it's like you're foggy, but also lethargic. It affects your brain and your
And
body.
it's such a challenge because we live in this world where there are solutions. There are things we can do, and part of what I do alongside of what we'll talk about with these supplements today, and the adaptogens and nootropics, is finding small behavioral ways to change these things. Like you're saying, getting up and moving, getting outside, even just not looking at a screen that is 12 inches from your face, but taking a wider view. There are
Mhm.
all these little tips and tricks. However, to actually use them can be really difficult. To make those your habits, as opposed to, say, scrolling when you get stressed, or to say, I can't get out and walk around because I'm in a job in which that's not possible.
Right.
So trying to find ways to meet people where they're at, meet people where they are, understanding that this whole wellness and feeling your best self thing is a long journey, and it's a continuous journey. You never get there. It is small improvements over time, but finding the easiest ways to do that in your life to then get some of that snowballing effect, that momentum. Because I think we tend to go New Year's Eve resolution style.
Yeah.
I'm the perfect, healthy, well person starting now. And I'm like, oh, but there's donuts at the office. I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, well, how can we integrate something that's good for you that might get you to the place where you say no to those donuts? Might get you to the place where you always take a deep breath or take a walk when you need to, but you don't have to be that perfect person. You don't have to be that perfect ideal that nobody ever hits. You can make these small little targeted changes that are meant to get the ball rolling. And if you give it time, those changes accumulate. And all of a sudden, a year from now, which doesn't seem that long, you might be that whole new person, as long as you don't try to become the whole new person. It doesn't happen that way.
Right, right. Yeah, you have to be able to sustain it. It like
Mhm.
weight loss, it's one of those things where it's like anybody can lose 10 pounds, but it's the keeping it off. It's changing the behaviors, changing the habits. And we always put ourselves last, unfortunately. It's the easiest to say, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll eat better tomorrow.
It's really hard, especially for those with, if you're a parent and you have children. And what you see in the literature is especially moms.
Yeah.
Are, and when you look at, I've spent a lot of time looking at some of the literature on households with two working parents. So in theory, you've got mom and dad in this classic example, both working 40 hours a week or whatever a full-time job looks like. But then when you look at the work at home, mom still takes the lion's share of the work at home, despite the fact that mom's working as much as dad is, or the spouse is.
Right.
A lot of that's back to social stigma, a lot of pressure on moms that has been kind of bred into us culturally about needing to take care of family. I've heard through a lot of interviews with people this mom guilt, like, oh, if I take a moment to work out today for myself, that's time I'm not thinking about my family. That's time I'm
Right.
not preparing my kids for XYZ. Whereas you tend to hear that a lot less from dads. The I need this time. And there's some stereotypes in there, but it's been demonstrated to a very broad degree. And here, I like to come back to this analogy of you can't fill anybody else's cup if your pitcher's empty,
Yeah,
right? And
100%.
it's easy to forget, but when we're not sleeping and we're not calm and we're not relaxed, we're not as kind to our family. We're irritable, we're snappy, we're not as attentive and focused, we're not as present. And so a lot of times making a small change that helps you then cascades in ways that you never would have imagined because they tend to take a little bit more time. And we're not good at delaying that gratification. We're not good at seeing the benefit weeks ahead of time when we're getting good sleep and getting exercise.
Yeah.
All it is, but if I take an hour to do something for my kids, it's helping them right now.
Hey, what do you think of the episode so far? I'm loving it. If you're liking it too, give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, whatever else. Okay, back to the show. It is a mom guilt thing or a parent guilt thing, whatever you want to call it. But I just had this conversation with a friend and I was telling her, if you are not taking care of yourself, you are not an effective parent. You are not an effective person, friend, because you're not taking care of you. You've got nothing to give. So are these adaptogens, are these meant to replace medications that help with anxiety? Is it a supplement of that, or where does it get incorporated?
Gosh, great question. So here with these, they are not meant to replace an existing pharmaceutical medication.
Okay.
Um, so here they are herbal remedies, really would be a great way to think about this, that have a lot of scientific clinical trial backing to them. So there's a lot of skepticism around supplements and herbal remedies,
Yeah.
and place me right in that camp of Western medicine dominated skepticism. That's how I grew up. That's what my
Mhm.
neuroscience degree really pushed me into. And for better or for worse. And here, what we're seeing is the modern science is really catching up with a lot of the ancient wisdom. The Ayurvedic medicines and this idea that this has been shown to work, we just didn't know how. And we
Mhm.
the scientific rigor around the study of it. And now it's catching up to show that these things like adaptogenic plants like ashwagandha, for example, is probably the most well known. That clinical trials are showing that these effects are scientifically demonstrable. That this isn't woo woo. This isn't old wives' tales, whatever it might be. That this is
Yeah.
real, but it is not the same as needing a anti-anxiety medication for panic disorders. It is not the same as needing an SSRI for major depressive disorder, things like that. Um,
Mhm.
there are instances in which it might help. But you want to be really careful in terms of taking this with any sort of diagnosed disorder um, and alongside any other medications. It's something you should talk to your physician about. That none of this stuff is meant to treat a disease or disorder, and so you want to be careful about that. Having said that, for most people, you deal with symptoms that are what we'd call subclinical. So we have anxiety, we have worries that keep us up at night, we have worries that keep us, that we can't think about. We're feeling like our mood is just a little bit down, a little too much because we're chronically stressed and looking at too much social media, whatever it might be. But I don't need a pharmaceutical medication. I just want to feel a little bit better. There's a distinction. That's where these types of things really shine. Is adaptogens, things like ashwagandha can help with mood, can help with reduced anxiety, can help with symptoms of depression, but they tend not to, or they shouldn't be considered based on what we know now to be replacements.
Can you take too much or too many?
You can. Yes, absolutely. So here, dosing is really important. And what I can certainly highlight is as I was thinking about adaptogens and then also nootropics, which we can talk about as well, this kind of other side of the coin of helping you live your best life. Um,
Mhm.
I had thought a lot about obviously being careful not to overdose. Um, Overdose is not a classic overdose where you take too much and you're on the floor or something like that. It is headaches, it is GI disorder, it is
Right.
irritability. It's actually too much can give you more anxiety. But as the scientist in me was diving into this, what I found was the evidence around these adaptogens as well as the nootropics give very clear clinically beneficial doses or dose ranges. And so what I did with those was I identified for each of the compounds that have adaptogens in them that I'm working with, and I can kind of tell you a little bit more about what that looks like, is I found a range where you could have a single dose of each of these a day. Um, and for some people, they might want to have it once a day, and that might be, especially for sensitive people, sufficient. But you could also double it and take it twice a day. And that is also something that might be beneficial for people who aren't as sensitive to some of these compounds, that want the maximal effect, but both are well within safe and efficacious doses.
Okay.
So here you can go too much. And so you really want to trust where you're sourcing your ingredients from. There can also be adulterated ingredients, with supplements. For me, I only take them if they're manufactured in the United States or in some countries in Europe, because you want to be really careful about where these are coming from and the quality testing I'm aware of in, Great Britain, for example, or the UK, as well as the United States.
Hmm.
Quality, and I trust that. But it can be really, you can get a lot of things that say they are ashwagandha and aren't what you think they are. And so you want to be really careful about how you find these. But then the other side of the coin, or the other side of the spectrum, is there's a lot of things out there that use the buzzwords, adaptogens,
Yeah.
supplemental, ashwagandha, and they're either underdosed that we know of, or very likely based on the use of proprietary blends. Um, I've done some research into some existing kind of brands of, functional mushroom coffees or things like that that have some of these things in them. And based on the research, you can't have fully functional doses of everything that you say is in your proprietary blend based on the math. And I think people see things like this and assume, oh, well, it says it's got this stress relieving plant-based compound in it. That must be good for me. And what you don't realize is maybe it's a tenth of what's actually been shown to be beneficial.
Right.
And you might be spending a bunch more money on something that's not actually that beneficial for you. And so I've really tried to find that sweet spot of not the Goldilocks zone of not too much, but certainly not too little, because that's all marketing and a waste of people's money.
Right, yeah, and we do wanna be able to just go to Walgreens.
Yeah.
"Oh, ashwagandha," and, you don't know if it's even ashwagandha, you don't even know what you're getting. Is there a certain way that you should take these? Does it matter if it's a tincture or in a tea, or does it matter?
No. Honestly, it's a lot more around, some of these can be time of day. Some of them have stimulating effects. Um,
Okay.
and so some of them you don't want to be taking in the evening, like right before bed. Ashwagandha does not fall under that category. It's fine to take whenever. Um, Most people are taking these as a pill form supplement. Some people like the tinctures, things like that, but people who are utilizing these are often just taking them as a pill alongside their daily supplements. But that can be challenging because it's easy to forget. I've thought a lot more about is when during the day might be the best time to take some of these things, as opposed to, is it a pill format? Is it a liquid format? Is it a powder format?
So what are nootropics? Nootropics.
Yeah. And either or, either or. So nootropics are a not necessarily related class of compound, but they have related effects. So they are a class of compounds that actually improve brain function, in a both a direct and an indirect manner. But they do it in a shorter time period than we tend to see with adaptogens, and in a more targeted manner, where these are basically brain boosting compounds that, depending on which ones you are taking, have different effects. But there are categories of these that tend to help with things like focus and attention, as well as improving mood, as well as increasing motivation, and helping with things like memory. So, really, when we think cognitive function, what's our brain doing for us? Nootropics are compounds that can benefit your brain's function right here, right now. But then a lot of them also have these accumulating effects over time.
Yeah, who
Yeah.
doesn't want that?
Right?
Like, send it to me in vats, please.
I know. Well, and this is honestly where I was sitting when I was learning about these. I was like, the benefits are there with very few exceptions. And compared to the risk we live with day to day, it's virtually nothing. But with very few exceptions, these are non-risky supplements to be taking for pretty much anyone, with a few exceptions. If you happen to be taking a thyroid medication, You want to be a little bit careful if you happen to be taking medications for bipolar disorder. You want to be a little bit careful. If you're taking any major medications, you want to check with your physician before taking these. But for the vast majority of people on the vast majority of standard medications that we see in the United States, these aren't really risky and the benefits are pretty incredible. And honestly, in my perspective, it's been a combination of we've been so focused on this Western medicine paradigm and this framework.
Right.
Unless it's a pharmaceutical that's the top grade, maximum strength, like I can't be helped by plants. I need something made in a lab. Um, but then also, we've been in a place where we didn't know quite enough about the clinical benefits of all of these, where we needed the science to catch up enough to validate that this is real for the general population to buy into it. And I think the third thing that comes to mind is the effects of each of these types of nootropics, of these adaptogens, are much more nuanced and less perceptible than the effect of caffeine, for example. So we're used to our kind of all natural, coffee bean based drinks.
Right.
Have kind of a pow. Oh, I had a cup of coffee and I know it. But did I have my ashwagandha today? I'm really not so sure. It has these benefits, but we live in a world in which we kind of want to be smacked across the face with things.
It's so true.
Like,
Immediate.
yeah. And so I think people haven't adopted these as much because it doesn't give you that immediate wow factor as much. And you need to know a little bit more about what you're getting to internalize the benefit and to justify seeking these out. And that's part of what I want to change is I want to bring these into people's daily lives in a way that these standard pill supplements just haven't before because they're beneficial. They have real impacts not only on mood, on anxiety, but also on things like focus, on things like mental clarity, on things like improving memory, all of which we're struggling with to an enormous degree, in part because we live in a world that's constantly distracting us, that's
Yeah.
constantly pulling us towards less sleep and more Netflix, more fluorescent lights, pulling us towards foods that are not great for us. I feel like we are salmon swimming upstream. If we are going to get anywhere, we're going to have to fight the environmental current, which is an environment that's not necessarily conducive to our health and our wellness and our clarity. And the more we can find these small and easy to implement ways to do it, the more of a leg up we have to continue our progress upstream.
Yeah, I love that. And being proactive about your mental health and wellness is so important. It's, you got to take the reins back and start taking care of your body and your brain. So, obviously, the focus and lifting that fog, to me, that's huge. So, how long does it take for these things to take effect? I mean, is it immediate? Right away, you start taking it and the fog lifts? Or, like, how does it work? How does it work in your brain?
Great question. And so it's a mix. And that's where, so, and to give you and your listeners a little bit of clarity. So since we last met, since we last had our podcast together in July, I have been doing research on these as ways to integrate wellness into your life. But what I've been doing is I've been trying to make this really actionable for people rather than say, you should take ashwagandha and you should take L-theanine and you should take X. Go find them. Here's some links. Add them to
Right.
the supplement stack. I've been working on a way to bring this into people's daily lives in a way that makes it seamless, easy, and an emotional connection that you like so that you actually do this every day because it does take for some of these weeks to months to see the real full benefits. And so what I've developed out over the course of the past number of months, based on the research that we're kind of getting into here on how do these benefit us, how to take them, is I've developed out a coffee enhancer that has adaptogens, so these stress relieving compounds, as well as the nootropics, these cognitive and mental boost compounds. Um, and it is a enhancer that you put into your morning daily cup of coffee. And so why do it this way versus more easily taking a pill, these kinds of things, is when you add it to something that you are already having each day. So it's called habit stacking. And it became really popularized in James Clear's Atomic Habits book more recently. However, this is a known psychological phenomenon of if you want to change and add a new behavior into your life, like taking a supplement that you know is good for you, the best way to do it is to stack it onto something you already do.
Right.
So adding a supplement to your morning coffee, that's going to be the best way to remember to take this daily. Additionally, some of these nootropics, like L-theanine, for example, um, help smooth out the effect of caffeine so that as opposed to, and I don't know about you, but if I drink too much coffee, I spike, I get
Yes.
jittery, I get crazy, and then I crash.
Yeah.
And some days I go through this cycle of coffee and then I've crashed. I need another coffee and I've crashed. And it's 4 p.m. and I'm having another coffee just to get me through my last hour and a half of work or whatever it might be.
Right.
And it ends up making me feel really crummy most of the day. Um, and here, if you take something like L-theanine, which is a nootropic, alongside of the coffee, it smooths out the coffee's effects so you don't get that jitteriness and crash. And I drink less coffee with it, but I also feel clearer and feel better after having it.
That's awesome. What if somebody's not a coffee drinker?
Oh my gosh, yes. So the way I formulated this, as opposed to a lot of the things that are out there, which are um, flavored, or they're meant to like taste like a latte, or they taste really mushroomy, and you need to be kind of into the granola alternative
Yeah.
scene to get it. That was the other thing I thought of when I was thinking through how do you get people to actually do this? And there's going to be a group of people who love an earthy, mushroomy tasting drink, and that's going to be a minority of people. Um,
Mhm.
almost certainly a minority of people that are going to want that earthy bitterness and
Yeah.
remind they like it. That reminds them that they're doing something that connects them with the earth. Most people want something that tastes good or doesn't taste like anything.
Yeah.
We have so many flavored products, but I also didn't want to make this flavored because if I want to put this in your coffee, you love your coffee.
Yeah.
Want a new coffee, do you? If I'm saying buy Jamie's coffee, no one wants to buy my coffee. People
Yeah.
want their coffee because they love it. They found it over time. It's their ritual and they love what it does for them. Let's just take your existing ritual and enhance it a little bit. And the best way in my mind to enhance it is to enhance it without flavor, um,
Mhm.
and without changing anything about it. So what I've made is a enhancer that is as flavorless as I can make it. And then most people, when they can taste it, really don't mind the flavor because it takes away a lot of that bitterness and
Yeah.
a lot of that earthiness. But not only can it be added to your daily cup of coffee, it can be added to tea. And if you're willing to have a little bit more flavor, hot water or cold water, you could be added just there. But the nice thing with coffee and tea is they both mask some of the earthiness of the plant compounds a little bit better.
I didn't well, I tried it. Spoiler alert. I tried it. I didn't taste it. I didn't taste anything of it. I don't sweeten my coffee. I don't put anything. I just put creamer in. So Jamie sent me a 7-day trial thing. I loved it. I really could tell. I thought, the fogginess, I wanted just to keep doing it. That was my thing. It was like, "Is this working? If it's working good, I wanna keep it up. I don't wanna just stop because my 7 days is up." But you're doing, like, a trial thing right now. But my favorite thing, these cards. That
Yes.
that is so cool. Like, I don't know what your plan is for that, but I learned so much just from the cards. So, talk about name it to tame it. If you name the emotion that you're feeling, it basically helps your brain to process it easier?
Yeah. Exactly. And so, Don, if you want to hold up those cards for a sec, just so that people can see. So basically, alongside every trial packet, and this is where I'm honestly figuring all of this out right now.
Yeah, I'm like
It
the
does,
Vanna White right
I know, right?
Oh, and for the people that are listening, these are cards that come on a ring, and they say, like, "Get out, calm down, name it to tame it, exhale to reset," and there's all of these things written on the back that explain what the front of the card means. So, sorry to those that were listening that didn't get to see my my Vanna White impersonation. No, but go ahead, explain.
Right. Let me step back a second and give the big picture because I think that'll be a little bit helpful. We jumped right into adaptogens and nootropics, which I think are fantastic. And then talking about I've developed out a product around this to help people get these into their lives.
Right.
My goal in the bigger picture is to help people establish healthier daily habits. So, how can we make wellness, mental clarity, focus, feeling good? How do we make practices that allow those to happen habitual. Because what we know is anything that takes effort and time is by default going to be the last thing we prioritize. And this is why it's so hard to get to the gym for most of us, is it's you just have to do it for half an hour a day. There's no way to shortcut the benefits of being at the gym, and it makes it really challenging.
Yeah.
Um, However, what most people don't realize is you don't need nearly as much as you think you do. You think if I'm not going to the gym for an hour a day, I'm not healthy. And that's not true at all. And what you find, and what I've found through my research, and what I really want to bring to people is practices that are as short as 2 minutes can benefit you. And peppering in 2 minute practices into your daily life is much more manageable than getting to the gym for an hour a day, or meditating for 45 minutes a day, or whatever it might be, journaling for 45 minutes a day. It's really hard to take that. If we had the time, we'd be spending it on something.
Yeah.
So here, what I found, and that what these practices are great examples of, the cards that I've sent along, are some 2 minute wellness practices that have been shown to make a huge difference in your perception and your mental framing, as well as your physiological state. And so what I've done is, in all of the samples that I'm shipping out to people of my coffee enhancer that has these adaptogens to help over time calm your stress response and help you manage stress more effectively, as well as the nootropics that help with immediate focus, mental clarity, attention, and memory, I've sent out behavioral practices that are 2 minutes or less that will amplify those same effects you're looking to get out of the supplement, out of the coffee enhancer. And so here, the real magic in my perspective is, while you're making your first morning cup of coffee and putting this coffee enhancer in it to really help it boost your brain, to take the 2 minutes that you're stirring it up and having your first couple of sips to engage in one of these practices. And the one you were highlighting, Dawn, that I love, I've called it Name It to Tame It. But this is the idea of, how can we better emotionally regulate? So many of us have had days ruined by our commute, right? 5 minutes of gnarly traffic in the morning, 20 minutes of gnarly traffic in the morning can ruin the rest of our day.
So true.
Right? Or a bad interaction. Oh my gosh, I did not like how that interaction with my parent or my child or my spouse or my coworker went. And all of a sudden that ruins our day. And when you look at the neuroscience of what's happening, it's fascinating. So we have a region in our brain. It's called the amygdala. There's one on each side of your brain, and this is like the fear, anxiety, and anger center of our brain. So when you see something that you is really disgusting to you, whether it's physically or morally disgusting, whether it makes you angry, whether it makes you upset, the amygdala tends to light up, and it carries the emotion, especially some of the negative emotions. So when you're having an emotion, an emotional reaction, you're upset about something, your amygdala is firing, saying, I don't feel good. I hate this. I don't feel good. Be wary. Learn from this. This is bad, bad, bad. But your amygdala doesn't have complex language around it. It's the feeling. It's that kind of ancient evolutionary bad feeling area.
Mm-hmm.
So when we feel our emotions, we tend to get caught up in the emotions and we don't even know why. But you can control this, which is cool, because we've developed the front part of our brain, which is called the prefrontal cortex. This is the like executive function, logical, rational. How am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? How does this fit in? Is this emotion helping me right now, or is it hurting me right now? That part of your brain. And it can be really hard when we're feeling emotions to logic our way out of it. We all know that. I know I shouldn't
Right.
be angry, but screw you anyway, right? But here, what you can do is something really simple to start engaging the part of your brain that helps regulate emotions and quiet them and put them in context and understand, is this helping me or is this hurting me? Your prefrontal cortex does all that. And to get it kind of activated and online, the first thing you can do is just name the emotion. And oftentimes we don't realize we don't even name the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I'm so upset. Why are you so upset? Oh, traffic, and everyone gets it. So everyone goes, oh yeah, traffic sucks, right? And
Yeah.
and then move on. And you don't realize, like, why did traffic bother me? Or why is traffic bothering me? Is it because I feel stuck and I'm not used to feeling like I couldn't go anywhere even if I wanted to? Is that making me anxious, like I'm having an anxiety attack? Or am I worried because I'm going to be late for a meeting?
Right.
I'm really worried because this meeting is important. And if I'm late, that reflects badly on me. I'm worried about my job and people's perceptions of me. Or am I late to pick my child up? And I'm worried that my child will see me differently if I'm the parent who comes 15 minutes late and they're standing on the street corner alone, waiting
Yeah.
for me to come up after an activity. Those are three very different emotions. And if we don't start explaining them to ourselves, oh, I'm feeling worried because I'm going to be late for this meeting, we can't deal with the emotion. But by stopping and saying, I am anxious because I'm going to be late, all of a sudden our prefrontal cortex is starting to rationalize the emotion in our amygdala. And then it opens up this gateway of how do we usefully move forward with this? Okay, I'm anxious that I'm going to be late. Now, what you can do that's very logical, but it has a nice complicated name. It's called decatastrophizing. But oftentimes what we do is we turn this into a catastrophe, whether we recognize it or not. I'm going to be late. This meeting's going to go terribly. My boss is going to not think I am doing a good job. I'm going to end up losing my job. No one's going to ever love me because I can't hold down a job, and I'm going to end up dying alone.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy when you say it, but when
Yeah.
you think it, it's not. This is the logical train of emotional thought. But the
Right.
second you verbalize it, like I just did, the second you can stop and say, well, what's the worst that's really going to happen? I'm 10 minutes late to this meeting because of traffic that everybody already gets how traffic goes. Maybe people will be upset. Most people are probably going to understand. And if I explain to my boss and make sure it doesn't happen again, am I going to get fired for this? Probably not. And all of a sudden, you've taken this emotion that you can't control and you can't handle and you don't even understand. And by one sentence saying, I'm worried about being late for an important meeting,
Mm-hmm.
you've now given it context. You've now given it thought. You've now given it a way to think about it that allows you to understand, is this emotion valid and beneficial? And it's really hard to do in the moment. It's hard to tell someone in the midst of anxiety or a stressful moment, well, how are you feeling? I'm just,
Yeah.
so the best thing to do is to practice it when you're calm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me practice it when I'm calm by stating, right now, I'm feeling a little bit worried about how the day is going to go. And that's a little bit of, I'm a little anxious about this because I've got an important meeting later in the day and I didn't sleep well last night. And I'm worried I'm not going to bring my best self to this pitch meeting, or whatever it might be.
Right.
And if you're saying that while you're calm, having your cup of coffee, you're building a toolkit, you're building a skill that then you can implement when you're freaking out in traffic or when the meeting is 5 minutes away and you realize you forgot to add a slide in that you should have. How do you then use that skill because you've been practicing it?
Right. That and I love that. But honestly, too, if you are taking some type of supplements, adaptogens, then you might not be dealing on such a high from the coffee that I mean, when I drink coffee, I can be extremely intense. I can be intense before I even hit traffic, you know? And so then when somebody just cuts you off, then I turn into a monster where it's like,
Right.
"Ah, what do you think you're but, if you do start your morning off in more of a peaceful tone, more mindful, and maybe not pure coffee, and you have some adaptogens and things in there that'll help regulate, keep the balance, maybe you won't be so knee jerk, to react to those things when they do happen.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is really how, honestly, I've thought about the human psychology of designing something that could be put out to a general public and used and actually used in people's lives. Because the other kind of, in addition to this habit stacking idea of something new stacking it on something old, the idea of reducing friction. If I were to say, Don, I can help you out with all those morning challenges. If you meditate for 20 minutes every morning, you're going to see these benefits. And a lot of the ones you'll get from these adaptogens, you would see with 20 minutes of consistent meditation. It does a lot
Mhm.
of similar things in your brain. It's really hard. Most people are going to say, I'm not getting up an extra half hour earlier just to meditate. Or if I do, I
Mhm.
fall asleep and I'm done with this. It doesn't feel good at all. How do you start with the easiest, simplest thing to add? And that's by doing that reduction process of, I need to teach people how the brain is being affected by these things for an hour, and then they'll know, then they'll change their behavior.
Yeah,
Too much. Okay,
right.
let's talk about a 15-minute, too much. 2 minutes of wellness on these cards still might be too much for people. They might say, I don't
Mhm.
have 2 minutes to spend. But what most people would be willing to do is, I'll add this to my coffee. It's something I'm already doing. And then when you start to feel the benefits, hopefully you start to buy into like, this Jamie guy isn't full of crap. I'm like, huh, maybe I will take a look at these cards. And it's a small incremental step forward.
Right.
And then you see the benefits and you feel the benefits, and you're more willing to invest some of your very precious time into doing this because now you're a believer and you've bought in. So my goal is to try to get people to do the smallest thing possible to feel the real benefits, then take the next baby step towards, all right, I'm willing to try this. And I'm willing to try this a couple times a day. And all of a sudden, you've started deprioritizing Netflix, which felt really good because you were escaping and it's immediate dopamine hit, but wasn't helping you become a better person. And you're replacing that with activities in your day to day life that you are helping yourself grow with that don't necessarily feel as immediately beneficial. But once you get the feeling, it's a deeper and more prolonged, satisfying, and meaning giving place to be in life.
Right. And a lot of the time, scrolling does not make you feel good. I just aired an episode this morning on a whim about how scrolling on social media can honestly make you feel worse because people do that comparison stuff and they might see so and so's on the beach in a bikini and they look better and they make more money and and downhill. That does not make you feel better. That is not a good way to start your day. Starting your day doing something for you, and it is hard to get motivated sometimes to go to the gym, but if you go and you're like, "Okay, I'll put 5 minutes in." Once you're 5 minutes in, you just keep going because it's like, "I'm
Mhm.
here, I'm already in, sweating, whatever." So, I get the 2 minutes. Just do the 2 minutes, and it will slowly build and add onto itself. I think it's fantastic. How do you go from just being curious about all of this stuff to creating your own? Like, that can't I don't who do you call? Like, I don't even know how this starts. The
It is, it's a wild journey. Honestly, you have to be in a pretty resilient place because it's kind of like jumping into the void. There's no roadmap.
Yeah.
There's no way to do, there's resources for entrepreneurship, for startups, for things like that.
Mhm.
But because everything is new and everything is different, there's no one roadmap to making a coffee enhancer supplement that's going to
Yeah.
lead into behavior change. And so basically, I was in the right place in the right time personally, where I had been working previously on some consulting work, on some coaching work that was all in the same arena of behavior
Right.
change towards these small practices that are going to help you day to day. And at the same time, I had a neighbor who had started her own company that was around a product. And so she was getting into this entrepreneurial phase, this startup phase, and she was doing it all around a product. And so I kind of had that seed planted from her.
Okay.
And the more I had thought about how do you get people to do things differently? How do you get people to change the way they behave day to day in a world that really resists it? Um,
Mhm.
and I got back to some of the basic psychology of people value their time more than anything else. We value our time, we value our attention as really precious commodities for ourselves. And we are more willing to part with money than we are with our time. This is why things, like certain cosmetic surgeries might work for some people is like, well, I want it now. You have the
Yeah.
immediacy. And I don't want to have to spend months and weeks and years. This is why most people don't run marathons or ultra marathons. It's not
Mhm.
because I don't love running. It's that takes too much time. I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. It takes the training is exhausting. I don't have the time. So I
Right.
started thinking about how can I get the time component shrunk down as much as possible. And people also love having a physical thing in their environment to guide their behavior. I think that's probably one of the reasons you love the cards. I didn't send you digital PDFs, right? I sent you a physical
I
card.
love that. That was my favorite part. I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, I can read," because I love to read, but like I told you before, when people say, "For example," I
Yeah.
love actionable steps because I could read this, get out, calm down, and read the things and the science behind it and be like, "Okay, I read it. What am I supposed to do?" Well, you look at the bottom and it tells you. It tells
Yes.
you what to do. I thought it was great. I'm not just blowing smoke. I thought it was great because for people like me, I need the guidance.
Mhm.
I'm willing, I just don't know what to do. So something like this to me was, chef's kiss. I thought it was great.
And then it's a physical thing that you might have sitting next to your coffee maker or on your night table, or whatever
Yep.
it might look like. Digital content is so easy to lose. We have too much, like you're saying. I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. That's a
Hmm.
huge feeling right now because we're in a world in which you are not limited by the information that you have access to. We have access to almost everything
Too
that we,
much.
it's too much.
Hmm.
So what you want is taking all that information, having someone strip it down for you.
Yeah.
What should I do? And how can I do this in a really small, easy, actionable way? And that's really the guiding ethos and principle of how can we take all this information, filter it into the gold nuggets that are actually going to be the best things? And then how do we get people to a place where they're ready to make the step towards those behaviors? Because we've got headspace and we've got calm and we've got all these other things.
Yeah.
And if they were the answer, we would be cured, right? We would be fine. There'd be no
Yeah.
need
You're
for further
right.
innovation. But, I think they're great things, but I use both of them. But
Yeah. Oh, they are. They're fantastic. They
But
can
they
go
haven't
hand in hand.
solved the entire problem. There's still progress to be made.
Right.
And so here, that guiding principle of how do we build something that is complementary to, that iterates on, that innovates from what we have currently, and make it very clear, make it very actionable, make it very approachable and sustainable. And for me, this behavioral pattern of I'll try something that I put in my coffee that's actually going to brain boost me, that's going to help me manage my stress by someone I trust, a neuroscientist who's done this research. And then you start feeling the benefits. And in part because of those benefits, and in part because you now have bought in and feel that, oh my gosh, what Jamie's brought to the table is real, you're
Hmm.
willing to take the next step into, huh, I'll be willing to try these 2-minute wellness practices. Maybe this isn't just a bunch of hooey fooey. Maybe
Yeah.
it's real. And then you realize, oh my gosh, this is good. Like this actually taking a deep breath in this way before a big meeting actually really helps me. This physiological side that's in the cards.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're ready to take the next step. And there's some stuff that I've got brewing that I'm not ready to share quite yet. But after all of this is a massive success, which I hopefully will be, I really want to bring people into a world where doing the healthy thing becomes the easy thing to do and the habitual thing to do. And it opens up the inner freedom, the inner peace, the inner calm, the inner clarity that we need to be moving through life with purpose, with intention, and with meaning. So that when we look back at 75, 80, 85, 90 years old, we look back and we thought, wow, what a nice trajectory my life took because I was present the entire way at the helm, making the calls, not just pivoting to whatever is in front of me based on what's exciting on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it might be. And
Right.
it's really hard to do. And that's why I want to create a support system for people to find this, in part because I have found it through a lot of hard work and effort and research. And now I want to share it because my life has been exponentially better by implementing these practices and by taking this coffee enhancer.
That's awesome. So is this for sale? Or are you still, because I like people might be like, okay, how do I get it?
I know, right? So it is not for sale yet. I'm in the process. It will be going live to market in February or March, so a few months
Okay.
out. So I'm building all of that out. But for right now, the best way to keep up on all of this, to learn about a little bit more about the science behind this, to get early access and some discount deals, as well as for the moment, I'm doing some free samples for individuals who are interested if they're willing to give some feedback. So I'm doing free product samples of the product I'm developing. And if you want and you're interested in any of that, I'll leave my email as well as my website. And I'll send those to you, Dawn, so you can post them
Okay.
in the show caption link. Get in touch with me. I'm not that hard to get in touch with. I am more than happy to get this into whoever's hands might be interested in it. And all I'd ask would be that people tell me how they like it.
I love it. That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Well, that's great because I think right now, if I'm thinking like a lot of my listeners, they might be like, well, how do I know what I need? Are your things that go in the coffee what you think everybody could use?
Yeah. Great question. And this is the other part of it is this decision fatigue. When you look at what supplements might benefit me, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, it's infinite. You should have beetroot powder in your life and matcha green tea and this.
So true.
You want turmeric, but it needs to have black pepper with it to activate the
Yes.
active compound. And all of a sudden, the information's there. There's not a ton of proprietary secret to it. I don't have time to research my supplements. I need to get my kids ready for school. My job is demanding. So what I've done is I have, at least for this first offering, and I'm coming up with the name and what it'll be branded as we speak. But for all of this, I have honed in on where I see the big pain points in modern intellectual worker culture, really, is when you're sitting at a desk, when you're doing a type of non-physical work that is
Hmm.
really challenging for humans. We're used to a lot of manual labor in our lives. And when you have to be sitting and focused for long periods of time, we find that challenging. So I've developed something that has a set of ingredients that are meant to help with calm focus and mental clarity. That is the overarching goal with this initial coffee enhancer, which I think for most people, they can get behind the idea of, I want to be a little bit calmer, a little bit more focused, and I want to feel like I can clearly think about my day and
Yeah.
clearly think about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And right now I feel scattered. Right now I feel like I can't focus. Right now I feel like I'm just reactive and not proactive. That's the person that I'm looking to address with this initial offering. Um, and I've developed it to first of all help me. Really, is where I started. Was I was like, I could use these things. But the more research the more I was like, I think that this is pretty societal right now.
Hmm.
And then the idea would be based on where this goes, come up with perhaps different iterations that are a little bit more focused on energy or physical energy
Okay.
or calm and relaxation, or maybe something that could help with falling asleep in the evening. These are kind of all directions that these things could take. But if you try to make something that helps everybody all at the same time, you're not going to make anything good.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I understand. I get that 100%. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for explaining all of this. I am so excited for you and your endeavor. You'll have to come back when you're releasing it, or you can come back whenever you want, but I want to help you. I want to get it out there. I think it's important. I think what
I
you're doing
really
is
appreciate it.
great.
Thank you, Dawn. It's so good seeing you. And as always, like I love your energy, your inquisitiveness. Like what a great podcast that you've curated, and you're the perfect person to do it. It's so nice to be chatting with you. And I hope that people who are listening in get something out of this. And also, if anybody wants to learn anything, really, I'm a teacher at heart. And so if anyone wants to learn anything, they're interested, they don't want to try it, but they're just interested in learning more about how they have them reach out to me. Please do reach out to me. I love talking about this. And I also love learning like what resonates with
Yeah,
people in the world. I have my perspectives, but I'm one out of 9 billion. Um,
right.
Here, I love hearing from people. What do they need? What are they looking for? And it's just a pleasure to meet with you. And I'd love to keep you updated as I make progress on this.
Yeah, no, it's great. Okay, send me everything that I need to add in the show notes and we'll be in touch.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks so much, Don. Good
All right.
seeing you.
Bye bye.
Bye.